night. All right, I'll do some quick housekeeping before we get started. Welcome to our Montessori Thrive Parenting Series. We host these as just a free resource for Montessori parents to come together, to learn from Montessori and parenting experts, and to talk about parenting through a Montessori lens. All of these are also going to be recorded and posted on that same registration page the following day. So you can always refer to the recordings if you need to rewatch anything or you want to reference anything that we discuss. Just want to make a note of that. Um, these are also collaborative. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. So if you're a parent and you want to ask some questions, you're more than welcome to. You can also drop any comments or questions in the chat and we can address them at the end. Or there might be some collaborative elements to the talk as well. So the aim is for it to be collaborative and informative and welcoming to all parents. All right, our speaker for tonight is Rupali Sharma, who's the head of school of the Tech Schools in Worcester, Massachusetts. She's a very inspirational educator and is doing amazing work in the Montessori space, and she's volunteered at several of our parenting series and our other community events. So we're really happy to have her back and opening this series. She's here to talk about the lasting value of Montessori. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Rupali so she can present and answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Camila. I'm delighted to be here. I'd like to ask everyone here, what is your hope for your child when they are 25? And perhaps you have children who are already 25. So just unmute and share what are your, hopes and dreams for your children. What do you see them becoming when they are 25 or older? What do you want to see in your children at that
Uh,
age?
I think that I've always, when I've talked to my husband about what we want for our child and later on in life, is just for them to be joyful and lifelong learners.
Yeah. Thank you, Mariana. Anybody else?
I would like to share. I think I want my children to be curious, even when they're 25, to be able to look at things in different ways and different perspectives rather than be, with blinders on.
Yeah. Thank you, Majabin. I'm very delighted to see you. Sally, you said that it's resilience, flexibility, um, engaged in their world. Thank you. Anybody else? So, for those who are just joining, I'm asking the question: what, when your child is around 25 or an adult, what qualities do you want to see in your child? We talked about being joyful, being curious, being engaged in the world, resilient, flexible, independent thinkers, pursue their dreams and career goals. Any other thoughts? Well, thank you so much for sharing these.
Yeah, I'm down to mention. I mean, as far as for my son is about to be 2. Just how to be just different ways of being independent and confident. How to be empathetic and kind. All those things that come along with being also social and accepting of space.
Right. Yeah. So not just being able to achieve, but also be a good human. Um, and how do we get there? How do we help our children develop all these qualities? Is it even possible? And I would say Maria Montessori said that it is. She came up with a system where she decided she came up with a methodology where she tried to inculcate all these values in the children. And 150 years later, we see that children have embodied those values. And I'm going to just show you a little presentation on how we've got there. When I started as a mother, I saw that my son was very curious, and we thought, okay, let's how do we want to see him grow up as an adult? And very similar to what some of you said, we wanted him to be a happy, confident, independent young man. So we started doing Montessori at home, and then when we were doing Montessori at home, I found that every single day we could give him one new topic and he would just absorb that. My personal background, I went to a Montessori school in India when I was in preschool. And as I grew up, I was part of a trading family. So I had my parents, my uncles and aunts, all in trading field. I learned to participate in their occupation. And then when my son was born, I decided to homeschool him for a few years before we sent him to a Montessori school. And when my son went to college, I decided to open my own school, the TEC school, Think, Explore, Create, with the idea that humans use their ability to think. We explore the tools around us, we explore our environment, and we create the world that we live in. So that's who I am. And I'd like to share a little bit more about the Montessori. Let me just go back. Oh, sorry about that. Apologies. So, what Montessori is? Everyone here a Montessori parent or a student? Yeah, great, wonderful. So, what is Montessori education? It's a system, a pedagogy that is based on the child's developmental milestones. So, when Maria Montessori says follow the child, what she means is that you want to follow the developmental milestones of the child and help the child get there. So we are not following just the whims of the child or just allowing the child to do whatever they want, but really to see where they are in their life and what are the benchmarks they need to meet at that life period. She believed in the idea of freedom, and all humans thrive when there's freedom of choice. So, a big component of the Montessori curriculum is making choices, and the teachers will always ask them, would you rather have an apple or would you rather have a cracker? Would you rather work on the bead cabinet or would you rather work on the pink towel? Would you rather uh, take a break or would you rather sit in the peace corner and read a book? So children are given choices in a limited manner, and that allows them to start thinking for themselves. So that's where the self-directed learning happens. Now, how do we do that? We do it in a prepared environment. The prepared environment is with specially designed, very carefully thought materials that children can handle, children can carry, children can lay them out, they can clean them up, put them away. And these materials that seem so simplistic, like the pink tower, they teach the children many concepts in math, in language, in geometry, um, in their visual discrimination of from the smallest to the biggest. It has weight to it, so they can feel it in their hands and their body. They can use, because what you give to your hand, you give to your mind. They can really make that material their own. And as they get older, the same concepts are taught again in high school, in college, and they never feel that I didn't know this. They always approach these concepts with curiosity and not fear. So that prepared environment is a very crucial part of the Montessori method. And then we have mixed age groups. So the stage groups allow students to work with each other, to learn collaboration, to uh, create their social interactions, whether they are with their peers, whether they are with their teachers, other adults, guests in the community. And they learn how to be respectful, how to have a moral sense of what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. All of these social skills are developed in that multi-age classroom. So what I did to prepare for this presentation was I reached out to students that I've taught and to students from other Montessori schools. And I asked, I asked them to fill out a survey so that I could get an understanding of what is happening to those students who I taught about 20 years ago, or who have been in Montessori for a long time. And here is what I found out. I found out that most children spend about 4 to 6 years in Montessori. Now, they could be 1 to 3 years, and that's okay. But really, it's when they are in a Montessori school for 4 to 6 years, whether they do primary or children's house and lower elementary, or they do lower elementary, upper elementary. Some are even in middle school and high school in Montessori. And it's those long periods when they've completed at least 2 3 year cycles is when they've really formed those skills that we're looking for. Of course, when they are in children's house in the primary years, it definitely makes a huge impact, as we see in the presentation. But also having that practice of practicing these skills in the lower elementary years and the upper elementary years helps a lot. Just with a quick show of hands, if you could all, or in the chat, if you could type in, if your children are in primary, if you could type in 1, and if your children are in lower elementary, type in 2. If your children are in upper elementary, you could type in 3, and that we can just see what we have here. If you're a teacher, please type in the age that you're teaching, whether it's primary or lower elementary or upper elementary and middle school. If you're a parent, you can also type in, and your children have graduated, you can just type in what age group your children went to. So it looks like it's a mix of lower, upper, middle school, and children's house. There are some teachers here too. Great. Thank you. So we also have some students who are in our homeschool environment, and they are also part of this graph. So what are the different programs that are offered for children in Montessori, infant, toddler, and we have a growing number now. Children's House or Primary is the largest group that attends Montessori schools. And I would say this is typical even worldwide. This is a small sampling that I have, but it is indicative of a larger Montessori group. Lower elementary, about 66%, upper elementary, a little bit smaller. And this is what we do see in many private Montessori schools, that you have a larger base in the younger age group. And as you get to higher grades, the number it becomes a pyramid. But nonetheless, I think it's those adolescent years and those high school years when you can truly see the manifestation of the skills that children learn in lower grades. So here, what we found out was almost 90% of the students who participated in the survey said that the most impact their Montessori education made for them was the love of learning. That the ability to be curious. And, so many parents, when they come to our school for applications, I ask them, what are you looking for? And they say, I want my child to develop a love for learning. Well, love for learning has to be cultivated. It doesn't just happen naturally like walking and talking, right? A child is going to walk given normal conditions. And for inculcating a love for learning, you have to show them things that they love or they'll develop a love for. So Maria Montessori says, of all things, love is the most potent. And what she means by that is that if you give children experiences that they love, whether it's cooking, whether it's reading, doing their academic work, going out to nature walks, perhaps reading, all of those qualities or all of those experiences that you give to the children, if they enjoy them, they're going to love them and they're going to want to do that more. So in a Montessori classroom, whether it's a primary classroom, infant, toddler, lower elementary, upper elementary, or even in a homeschool environment of a Montessori background, there's a lot of emphasis on what would you like to do, on giving the child, an opportunity to say, what do you like? Whether you set up a bird feeder for them to watch the birds, or you set up a painting area for them to paint, you give them a choice of saying, what would you like to do? And when the child goes on their own initiative, by their own initiative, they are driven by their passion. And the more they do it, the more interest they develop in that area. So repetition is another big component of the Montessori lessons. So when they are given a lesson, they are also given the opportunity to repeat it as many times as they want till they are completely satisfied. When you're satisfied, of course, you're happy and you develop that, and as you do it multiple times, you say, oh, what else is there in this that I can learn? And when they can see, when they can ask questions, when they can teach others, they develop that love or that curiosity for the work that they're doing. That quality, if it can stay through their adulthood, then they're going to look at everything in their adult life with wonder, with amazement, with a drive for saying, how can I see, what can I learn from this? What can I do to make it better? All those questions or those approaches are taught in a Montessori classroom. The other part that we found was most of the people who participated said that a quality that stayed with them was that of creativity and innovation. One thing, if you look at the world that we live in, throughout history, most changes in the world have happened because of creative ideas or innovative ideas of a few people. And those few ideas from few people make big impacts and change the world. Whether it's a technical innovation, innovation in art, innovation in spiritual outlook, whatever the human needs are, the innovations that happen move a civilization forward. And those movements or those innovative ideas are generated by a few. If we can have Montessori schools where more and more and more people become creative and innovative, we're going to have a world that is just wonderful to live in. We already are in a great place. But can you imagine that instead of just having a few people, you have more and more people innovating and creating? It's going to be an exciting place. And so I love the fact that there are many Montessori schools that are opening everywhere around the world, that Montessori education is becoming accessible to families, even in remote places, thanks to technology and resources now that are available online. So, if you want creativity and innovation to be a part of your child's life, Montessori education allows your child to develop those skills. The other big area was that of critical thinking. Critical thinking, problem solving, they go hand in hand. Montessori schools focus a lot on research. They focus a lot on writing and presentation skills, allowing children to communicate with others, their ideas, whether they're presenting a report, whether they are performing a skit, whether they are reciting poetry, or even science fairs and STEAM fairs. Children have the ability to take a problem, solve it, present their ideas, and go back to the drawing board if they don't work. Because of that iterative process, because of the interactive process, they are able to communicate their ideas and participate fully in a project. Now, one of participants in the survey said, Montessori gave me the freedom and confidence to be an independent learner. We were given a lot of time and opportunities to explore what we found interesting. And now, later on in life, I have always been motivated to do my own thing in college and at my job. Now, how wonderful is that?
Rupali, sorry to interrupt. Is there any chance, I think your sound is a little bit muffled. Is there any chance maybe you can move a little bit closer to the mic? I don't know if it's
Is this better?
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Camilla. I think there was just a book on the page. All right. So, how wonderful it is if a child can, create on their own new ideas in their workspace and allow for innovation and allow for new ideas within their domain that they are in. So, a child, an adult who is excited about life, that's what Montessori helps them become. The other is, the second tier in our survey were all these skills of collaboration, teamwork, self-discipline, self-motivation. Again, it's the multi-age classroom that truly allows children to be collaborative. They work together. Human beings are solitary beings as well as social beings. And so if you want to have time for yourself to do independent work and independent thinking, you have that in a Montessori classroom. If you want to work with a teammate and make a map, we have students who are making flag maps of the whole world. So they take one continent at a time They draw the countries, and instead of painting the countries in one color, they paint the flag of that country in every country. And so you have this large projects, large murals in the classrooms made by students working together. And so now they have to communicate with each other, they have to negotiate. It's like a microcosm of the real world where they have to take turns and work together with resources that they have. This also takes self discipline and self motivation. I want to do this. Teachers are always asking, what would you like to do? So they're now developing that by daily practice. I want to do it. It's very rare to find a child in a Montessori school that is bored because there's so much to do. They have many options that they can use in the classroom, they can work on. And they also have to manage their time. So they may use a work plan and they have a time limit within which they have to finish their work. So even though they may have a fluid work time during the uninterrupted work time, they still have to get their work done in a timely manner. So organizing their time becomes an easy skill to develop in a Montessori classroom. One thing is really interesting to take away from this. I often walk into the classrooms and I see children working in, especially our older students in the adolescent classrooms, where they have an entrepreneurship program and they are polishing, they're cutting the wood, they're polishing, they're sanding, they're painting. They may be laser cutting or doing a 3D model. They're working really hard on their projects, and yet I see them very joyful, very much satisfied. And I ask them, what, this is so hard for you, and how is it that you're still smiling? And often they say, it's the hardest project that I've done, but it's mine. And I have come up with this idea. It's completely from my brain and my imagination. It, I can spend hours on this. So, how wonderful it is for children in middle school when everything in their personal life is changing, their hormones, their body, their uh, peer group, their outlook to their peer group. They're more focused on the peers. During that time, to have the stability, to have the confidence, to have the ability to say, I can do this by myself. I have created this and I'm participating in life. So, those time management, organization, entrepreneurship skills are all part of being, in a Montessori classroom, doing the work by themselves. So here's another young adult who says, since I was part of the Montessori education system at a very young age, I can't point to a specific influence. That method of learning was simply how I was taught. However, I do believe I would think differently if I hadn't been exposed to it. Regarding school learning, the university level education system in the UK is often described as self taught. And I think if I hadn't been encouraged to learn at my own pace and be independent from a young age, and if I hadn't continued using those methods throughout elementary, middle, and high school, I wouldn't have been as successful in adapting to an independent, learning based higher education system. So, when our students graduate from a Montessori school and they go to a traditional school, a parochial school, a homeschool environment, or um, a local school in their area for further education, I ask students, what difference do you notice? And they often say they're surprised that for many students, learning is boring or school is not fun. And they're just surprised. How is it that school cannot be fun? Because in a Montessori school, they're learning while having fun all the time. So I'm sorry. I'm just going to go back. What Let me just share this screen. Here we say, what are students in this, the people who took the survey, what kind of jobs are they doing? Where are they in their lives? So some of them are in education, management, healthcare, research, engineering, product management, SPED, learning assistant, professional dancer, client advisor for healthcare companies, student. Some of them are still college students, university students. Some are in marketing, psychology, advancement officers. So there's just a variety of fields that children are, these young adults are in. And another student says, Montessori taught me always to approach people with empathy and understanding, and that ignorance and lack of understanding is usually the root of fear and betrayal. I approach problems with the same methodology I learned from the peace table in school, and it has served me well in a healthcare career, as upset patients and families are common given how broken the system is. The unique ways of thinking and approaching problem solving and social interactions has guided me in my adult life. How powerful is that? We have a student at our school who made a peace rose for every classroom, and she did this completely on her own volition. She did it at home. She made a beautiful crepe flower peace rose. And as a third year student, she went to the primary classroom and presented their peace rose to the younger children. She then took it to um, the the upper elementary classroom and the middle school classroom, and gave a presentation to these older students and explained what is a peace rose and how you can use a peace rose to communicate, to collaborate, to resolve conflicts, and that helps children develop empathy, compassion. Um, One of the parents said earlier, I want my son to be a good human being. So, those communication skills, how to articulate your thoughts, how to share your emotions, how to voice your feelings, all of those have to be taught to students. And in Montessori, teachers make a space for it in the classroom. There's a peace corner, there's a peace table, and the teachers will give students the space and time to talk about their feelings, about their emotions, and resolve their conflicts. So let's see. Yeah. So here is a slide which talks about how children develop practical life skills. About 70% of the participants said what Montessori taught them were practical life skills, taking care of themselves, dressing, in the primary classroom, you see the dressing frames, how to zip, how to button up, how to lace, how to tie your shoelaces. All of those skills have multi steps. Those are multi step uh, procedures. So they're learning, I need to do this first, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. There's a sequence, there's an order, and that helps them when they get a little bit older to prepare food. So if they're cooking, every Montessori classroom has some form of food prep. I have a 4-year-old great niece, and she goes to a Montessori school in a neighboring state. So yesterday I met her, and she was saying, "Oh, in our food preparation area, we have toast and cinnamon sugar and butter. And they all they have to do is take the slice of bread, toast it, apply butter and cinnamon sugar to it. But she was just so delighted about it. You know, she was talking about how wonderful it smells, how wonderful it tastes, and how she can engage with another student during that time. We have students who do sewing. Um, I know one of my students is here in her classroom. We used to do sewing and knitting. We also do many skills like carpentry or woodworking, um, baking. All of those are practical skills that children learn to become independent. I had a student who wrote a blog when he was in college about how to make food independently in a college dorm and not rely on just sources that are available outside and save money. So, you know, children just learn to become independent people. Here's a parent who talks about her experience. My children attended Montessori school, and while I'm so grateful for all of the obvious things they learn, the thing I appreciate most is the Montessori concept of teaching peace and tolerance. A Montessori school had a big festival on International Peace Day, a peace corner in every classroom where students could go to calm themselves or resolve a conflict with a classmate. Peace was embraced as a way of life. A Montessori school also celebrated different ethnicities, backgrounds, and religious difference with classroom activities and instruction, and with festivals and programs throughout the year. My children learned to live in harmony with others and to respect all people. This focus was incredibly impactful on their worldview. Montessori just prepares global citizens. You know, we are sitting here, we are from different places in the world, and we are here united, able to have a civil conversation. It's just wonderful. I'm sorry, my computer is a little slow. Okay. Oh, it just moved very fast. I'm not yet at the last slide, so let me go back. I apologize for this technical issue. In the meantime, while we are waiting, would anyone like to chime in and share their observations of their children? Or if you were a Montessori student and would like to share?
Feel free to drop it in the chat as well. I can read it out.
I'm just going to stop share over here and get back in. So yeah, I will just open the conversation till I'm able to get back to the presentation. So Lauren, you're here too. Would you like to share something about your children? I know you're homeschooling your children, but you've been a Montessori teacher for many years.
Yeah. And I also was a Montessori child myself. So I went to a Montessori school, then later got trained as a Montessori educator and have now been doing Montessori with my kids for 13 years at home. So we've kind of turned the house into a bit of a Montessori school. So there are some things that are definitely lacking when you do it as a homeschool versus in a school setting. And I regret those things that my children are missing. They don't have, I mean, well, they have the two-person multi-age environment, but they don't have the number of children and the number of age groups. So that's something I feel that they are lacking. When you were talking about the collaborative piece, I was like, yes, that's so great. And then I thought, we're kind of missing that, aren't we? So I do think that there's a lot of value to going to a Montessori school over homeschooling Montessori style. So if I had the choice, we're in Thailand. So if I had the choice, I would have sent my kids to a Montessori school, like many of you are. At the same time, when there isn't a school available, then I do still feel there's so much value in the Montessori method, primarily in what I've seen in my own life and in my children's life, the lifelong love of learning and the self-directedness. Something that I think is increasingly more important in this age of technology, where so many people are on screens and the concentration span is very minimal. I think that the Montessori method allows children to focus on something for more than 15 minutes, more than 30 minutes, more than an hour even. And I think that's becoming more and more rare in our society, where I'm hearing studies of people having a shorter and shorter attention span. And that to me is very concerning, because you can't learn everything in 30 seconds or 1 minute or less than 5 minutes. There's some things that just require more time and attention to learn. I was just saying to my kids, worthwhile things take time. You know, that deeper learning, you can't do that in a short time span. You have to have that time, uninterrupted work time. And that's something I've really tried to give my children, both in homeschool and just even in my own life. You know, where are we always being interrupted? And I think that's something that at a Montessori school, children are allowed and given the space and the time to work on their map for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe all morning. You know, there were times when I was a directress where parents would say, "What did my child do today?" And my answer was a one-word answer: "She did math." And they're like, "That's it?" I'm like, "That's a lot of math," you know, and she was on a roll. And there was no way I was going to interrupt that attention span, because you know what? The next day, that child may have zero interest in math, and they may be all about geography. And so we kind of have to, you know, strike while the iron is hot, or let them strike while their iron is hot. Like the other night, it was bedtime. Well, I thought it was bedtime. It was 8 p.m. And my son was like, "I want to name every single country on the map." Well, you know, that takes time. And part of me was like, "It's bedtime, kiddo." And the other part of me was like, "You know what? Go for it. We're homeschoolers. Sleep in tomorrow. Go, you know, you might as well go name every country." And he did. And he named every single country on a blank map, all 196, I believe it is. And that's yeah. Well, and that's a Montessori education for you right there. I mean, the fact that he knows the name of every single country on the map. He's 11, and you know, I can't name. I mean, can you really name where the Marshall Islands are? I can't. I have no idea where you know, I'm like, in Oceania somewhere. It's one of those Oceania countries, but he knew, beep, those are the Marshall Islands. And I was like, wow, go you. So anyway, I'm going on and on, but it's just, it has shaped our entire family. It has shaped our lives in every single way. And as a Montessori child myself, I love learning. It has informed every aspect of my professional life. I'm a linguist. I need to be self-directed. And I actually send out a tip that goes out to about 4,000 people all over the globe to help them learn other unwritten languages. So just trying to help people learn and learn how to learn, it's informed every aspect of my life, both personally and as an educator. So.
Right. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing that. I also want to say that in the chat we have Pamela, who says, "I was a Montessori student from pre-K through grade 5. When my eldest started having behavioral issues in public school, Montessori is what I sought out. He has been in a Montessori program this school year and is thriving. He's no longer bored, able to work on more advanced material, find and explore different interests. Currently, it's Greek mythology." My daughter, 6-year-old, is a struggling reader yet, working on dynamic multiplication. Because of Montessori, she's able to be on her level in each subject area. In public school, she would be held back due to her reading skills. And this is something, one of the students who uh, took the survey, he said, as an ADHD student, he never felt that he was not of value or that he was unable to do something, because in Montessori there was always something to do, and he was able to thrive in the areas that he liked. There's another student who wrote in the survey that he pursued performing arts and he was struggling in reading, but the performing arts curriculum gave him the stage and the place to be somebody out of his own self, and he could emulate the character that he was enacting. And as a college student, he took performing arts as his minor, and then now he is an educator. So you never know what part of the curriculum is going to speak to that student. And instead of saying the child doesn't know or is not ready, instead of us making those judgments, just freely Montessori teachers give the gift of education. And truly, the first period in Montessori is called the gift that the teacher gives. There's no expectation other than the student is ready to learn. And the teachers always ask, are you ready? And if they're ready, the teacher's ready to give that gift. So it's a wonderful way of learning. Sally says, I've seen my oldest daughter thrive in a Montessori school, year 2 or lower. She comes home effusively joyful about her day and proud of her work. She's currently engrossed in deep dive into music, and I'm so grateful for her exquisitely in tune guides who masterfully put more and deeper in her path. And that's the thing, the teachers, the guides, they thank you, Sally, for using the word guides, because the Montessori teacher is observing constantly, tweaking the approach and helping the child get there. Our science teacher said, today we have students working on the STEAM fair, and she said, their path is never from A to B, straight line. It goes through all these curves and various directions, up and down the hills and valleys, and they arrive there and they're very, very satisfied because of that journey. And there's not just one way of doing it. So, yeah, and Mariana, Lauren, this is for you. She says, thanks for sharing your story. I'm not a Montessori child, so it is interesting to hear from someone who went to a Montessori school. So with that, I will end my presentation here so that we have some time to have either students or parents, families who have had their children in Montessori share their observations, and also open the forum for questions and answers. If you would like to speak, please unmute and share your thoughts. What I'll do is I will also share some of the feedback I got from other students. I couldn't include all testimonials out here, but it's really interesting to kind of see what other what the respondents wrote, and these are all students from perhaps the age of 15 through adulthood. We also had a parent who wrote back saying that but she has 4 children. They all went to Montessori. And she sent me a picture of a grandson who's also in Montessori. That was just precious. She says, I am so happy to send the next generation to Montessori. So one of the students says, I learned how to read with increased focus. This became useful in middle and high school, as well as in college, when I had to read long texts to glean information from it. Again, that long period of focus and concentration is developed from working in the practical life area in the primary years. It's been able to sustain a task for a long period of time that then becomes a habit and children can do. I fully credit Montessori school with my strong sense of self discipline and ability to project manage a large amount of tasks at once. So that's another parent. Another student. I definitely value a love of learning and curiosity. I think the emphasis on understanding why things happen rather than just memorizing information teaches you to see problems as something to figure out rather than something that leads to failure. I've noticed a difference in how wrong answers are handled in Montessori education compared to typical public school systems. When you teach a child that it's okay to be wrong as long as they understand why, it significantly impacts how they approach learning in future. So again, Montessori materials are self-correcting materials. So if a child makes a mistake, they can correct it themselves. They look at it and they say, oh, it just doesn't feel right or just doesn't fit right. They can see it. There are attributes, sensorial attributes that they can figure out. And so making a mistake is okay, and it builds resilience over time. Children don't just give up. They learn to figure out different approaches to that problem. So that's another one. And yes, I don't know if Mejabeen is still on the call, but she was a little while ago. She has two children in Montessori. She says, I'm sharing as a parent of two children who went to Montessori. My kids had two different experiences. My daughter, who was shy, really embraced leadership in children's house. My son was able to have self-discipline and develop focus at a young age when he was having a hard time staying still. The pride that came with making their own creations has stuck with them through the years, and now they are in college. And I would say one thing here, one student said, my time in Montessori was a happy and peaceful start to my education. It set the tone for me that school is a wonderful place. And isn't that amazing that school is a wonderful place? You can be happy, you can be at peace. What more do you want from a school? So I think that um, it's not just about reading, writing, doing your math, getting your grades, but it's becoming a wonderful human being, a person who can participate fully in life with zeal, with enthusiasm, with love for life. And that's what is the lasting value of a Montessori education. Thank you.
Any last questions or just comments or experiences to share before we wrap up?
Thank you, Johnny.
Another story. I'm just, I don't know why the parents are on the call if they're already, definitely we're doing Montessori all the way, or if anyone is, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I think, like you said, most people go for children's house, but don't necessarily go on for elementary and middle school and high school. I mean, there aren't that many high schools, so maybe that's partially why, but just to encourage you, I was a Montessori child in children's house, but then I was an elementary directress guide. And the things that I saw the children learn in those later years are amazing, amazing. And it's so well thought out. And Maria Montessori, I mean, I don't know if you could say she was a genius, but probably. I mean, the way she conceptualized so many things, but then made it so hands-on for the children is so impressive. And I remember, you know, in high school, I learned about the Pythagorean theorem, and here I was teaching 7-year-olds the Pythagorean theorem with hands-on materials, you know, the didactic materials. And they were like, oh yeah, easy. I got it. And they started extrapolating. And I was like, this is something I didn't learn till high school. And in high school, all I learned was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And it was, to me, it was just a formula. And I had no idea why a squared plus b squared equaled c squared. I just knew that was the right answer. And here they made it visual, where there was an a square and there was a b square, and you put them together and they actually do equal c squared. And now you could just say, well, you had a bad math teacher. Maybe I did. I probably did. But the fact that that math teacher didn't show it to me the way Montessori does, and the way that Montessori does show it, and it makes it so clear that it's like, this is child's play. This is easy. This is not rocket science. And yet in high school, it just seemed so hard for me because no one showed it to me. And I think that's what I love about Montessori is we show it to the children. We don't just tell it, and we don't just say this is a formula and that's the right answer. And if you don't get the right answer, and you lose. You know, it is showing them so that they can come to those conclusions and learn those things. And I just, you know, it's like I envied these kids. I thought, oh, I wish I had been taught this way. And so that's one of the reasons why, even though I don't have access to a Montessori school in Thailand, I continue to do Montessori homeschool because I want my kids to have that benefit, to be able to run with their interests. You know, my son, we were doing country study projects and he chose Denmark. Why? Well, because that's where Legos are made. And I thought in my head, kind of like, what a ridiculous reason to choose an entire country. Like, you know, kid, you're going to have to study this country for more than just Legos. He ran with it. And he has been studying Danish, and he now knows 3,000 words in Danish, all because of a country study project that started with me just saying, pick a country. And by letting him pick the country he wanted, rather than saying, you're going to study Italy because we're Italian, I never would have picked Denmark for him, honestly. We live in Thailand. We speak Spanish. We're Italian. Why would I pick Denmark? I would have never picked Denmark. But he had an interest in Denmark and he has run with it. And you can ask him anything about Danish history and the Danish language, and he is obsessed. And I think that's something that Montessori does for your kids, for my kids, is helps them, you know, I don't know, frankly, I think maybe it's humbling to say, I don't really know who I'm raising. I don't know who this person is. This person is still developing. This person is still forming. And how dare I try to conform them to who I am and what I think you should learn? And so I think that it's just amazing that he has the freedom in Montessori, and your children have the freedom in Montessori to discover who they were made to be and what their interests are and who they are. And I don't know, that's just, to me, one of the most beautiful things of Montessori is, you know, are you raising an engineer? Are you raising an artist? We don't know who you, like, you don't actually know who's living in your house with you. And it's the amazing process of discovery, and Montessori lets that happen.
Yeah, and you know, Montessori calls the child the spiritual embryo. She likens it to a seed because just like a seed, it's going to blossom, it's going to flourish, it's going to flower, it's going to bear fruit. And our job as educators, as parents, as adults in that world is to nurture that spirit in the child and allow them to become who they will be, who they're meant to be. And we don't know, it's a mystery that's going to unfold.
Thank you so much for sharing and everyone who joined in and shared their own experiences and questions. I think this was a great presentation, Rupali. It's always good to reflect on what makes Montessori unique, what makes it effective, and what really allows Montessori children to become lifelong learners. I think at the core, that is what Montessori aims to do. So thank you so much, Rupali, for your presentation. Really enjoyed that. And then next week, we'll be meeting at the same time and we'll be joined by Christine Lowry to talk about neurodiversity in Montessori, which is very fitting because if you didn't know, Maria Montessori initially started working a lot with neurodiverse children. That was a very big part of her research. She worked with underprivileged children and children that had that were on the spectrum or had certain learning challenges, and she really made the most of it. And that's at the core, again, something that we see in Montessori a lot. So I look forward to that presentation. Please join us next week if you're interested in learning more about that. The recording for this will be available tomorrow on that same event link, so you can access it there. All right, well, thank you all for joining, and a special thank you again to Rupali.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have fun, everyone.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.